Hey there, readers, writers, and friends. Story Serpent here, and today we are talking about Lunar New Year Love Story by a couple of names I am about to butcher. Jean Luen Young, and illustrated by Leuyen. Oh goodness, yep, butchered. And illustrated by Leuyen Pham. It's a YA graphic novel, heavily romantic, as the title would indicate, with a hint of the paranormal, which I am sold by that alone. Is published January 9th of 2024 by First Second Books, which is an imprint of Roaring Brook Press, which, if you keep digging, ends up being Macmillan. Before we get into all that, though, today's random words are like, share, subscribe, excursion. So what does the book have to say about itself? Val is ready to give up on love. It's led to nothing but secrets and heartbreak, and she's pretty sure she's cursed. No one in her family for generations has ever had any luck with love. But then a chance encounter with a pair of cute lion dancers sparks something in Val. Is it real love? Could this be her chance to break the family curse? Or is she destined to live with a broken heart forever? Ooh, so that's making us a bunch of romantic trope promises. It hints at that paranormal essence. It's letting us know exactly what we can expect. All the good stuff we would expect from a YA romance, right? Yeah. So what do we know from the outer trappings? We know that the cover design is beautiful, and a quick flip through shows us that these illustrations are gorgeous. Pham is clearly incredibly talented, and in terms of book design and choices, as you go throughout the book, they have these fantastic Lunar New Year zodiac pages that help distinguish the chapters for us. So really beautiful, very culturally interesting, and I absolutely loved that. The back cover too tells us exactly what we can expect in terms of the spookiness. There's definitely that hint of the paranormal happening here, and it absolutely delivers on that. She was destined for heartbreak, but then fate handed her love. Like, how perfect is that back cover? It's telling you exactly what her fatal flaw is, what her trope is, what we can expect from the story. It's wonderful. The other thing we know from the outer trappings is that the binding is actually really solid for a paperback of this size. It's really high quality. I never felt like I was about to destroy this book as I was reading it, and I am really hard on books that I personally own. They get flopped onto tables and shoved into bags and all that sort of stuff, and so a good binding on a paperback is something I really appreciate. So what's going well? The prose in this book is fantastic. Now, with a graphic novel, you expect much more minimal prose, and so it can often be too simplistic. Sometimes the dialogue comes off a little stilted. You don't get anything described, and so it's easy for some of the characterization to be lost. But the writing from Young is so tight. It's absolutely spectacular, and it really does an excellent job of marrying with the pictures and complementing those gorgeous illustrations. I never felt like there were any problems in the dialogue. There was maybe one or two places where even I was a little like, isn't that a little stereotypical? But if he thinks it's good and he's pulling it off, which he really is, then that's probably okay. The story is well developed and the pacing is fantastic. I sat down and read this thing probably like 2 sittings of 2 hours each. I just cruised right through it. Because of how well written it is and the pacing is great. I was never bored. I never felt like I wanted to put this down. It was, children were screaming and I had to attend to them. And as far as a romance for YA goes, the story is absolutely perfect for the age group. It's not over sexualized. There's nothing graphic. Spoiler alert, you get your very sweet kiss that you were waiting for the whole time at the end. But that's it. And I think there's a real hunger out there for a good YA romance that isn't trying to push those over-sexualized boundaries. This was a really good time. You could hand it to any teen, like 13 and up, and they would absolutely love it. Characters. Okay. Sometimes in a graphic novel, it's easy for characters to fall flat, but Valentina is a fantastic main character. She is kind and thoughtful and creative, and she takes action. She is an active individual. She really loved ballet, had to stop for financial reasons. And so when lion dancing becomes a possibility, becomes an option in her life, she takes it because she's looking to be very physically active. Um, and so it makes sense for her to join the lion dancing team. She's not doing it just because, like, oh, cute guys are doing a thing, I want to do a thing. She is genuinely interested, and she falls in love with lion dancing itself first, which I think is fantastic and a great message for young women. Do the things you're interested in, and you will meet interesting people you enjoy being around. I think it's a great message, and she is a wonderful main character. Her romantic interests are interesting, each in their own way, and the way those relationships develop and the will they, won't they, it's very interesting. I don't feel like either of them is ever just sort of waiting in the wings to show up and romanticize Valentina and then walk away. You always know that they have their own stuff going on, they have their own lives, their own personalities, and because they are so different, Valentina figuring out what she really wants from a partner, from a romance, is a huge theme in the book, and it makes it very multi-layered, multi-dimensional. Loved it. Our side characters, Leslie's little sister, Gran, are fantastic. They are the best. I kind of love it when a B character steals the scene a little bit, and every time Gran is on the page, it's all about her. She is adorable. She is that quintessential tiny Asian grandma who is just a force of nature, and I found myself just grinning ear to ear every time she showed up. One of the things this book does really, really well is it's dealing with a lot of different Asian cultures. It talks about the Chinese Lunar New Year versus the Korean versus the Vietnamese, and how these cultures have all kind of not melded and married, but kind of coexist, especially in San Francisco where the book takes place. Most of the book takes place. And to me, it's reminiscent of Pixar's movie Coco, where the characters are recognizable, not necessarily stereotypical. You're like, I'm pretty sure I know that guy. I'm pretty sure I've met that woman once. They feel well-rounded and familiar, but in a way that is genuine to the sort of habits and idiosyncrasies that you see in the various cultures. Really well done. Really appreciated that. Thematically, one of the things that annoys the story serpent is when YA literature leans into the drama and the teen angsty obnoxiousness. I don't know anybody whose favorite Harry Potter book was Order of the Phoenix. I'm sure you're out there. Good for you. But most of us found getting through that book kind of a slog because Harry is so melodramatic the whole time. He's so over-emotional. Everything is terrible. And for good reason. But that's not a fun read. We understand teenagers are going to be hormonal. They're going through a period of discovery. But to overly lean in and over-dramatize everything just gets tedious. And oftentimes it can mess with the pacing of the story. This book never does that. Until the very end. And then things start getting a little too wah wah wah. He said, she said, for my tastes. But it's never too much. It's never overpowering. I love that they include Grandma's Catholic faith. I love seeing Valentina re-exposed to faith as a way of being in the world. And I think that this book balances the realities of those that are religious with those that have their cultural beliefs, and how those two can marry and they don't necessarily have to contradict. I love how respectful he was to religion and to the fact that this is something that's important to people. It was never mocked, it was never silly, and it ends up playing a really big part in Valentina's life, especially towards the end as she is wrestling with her inner demons and the pressure she feels surrounding her family's past. It's really well executed, and I think any young person who happens to be religious will see themselves in this regardless of what faith practice they adhere to. So, is there anything that's not working in here? The dialogue at the end. Remember how I said we get our kiss? We absolutely get our kiss. It is led up to with some pretty lame dialogue. I think there could have been a little more effort, a little more time and care put in, maybe even like go watch a bunch of silly rom-coms and kind of aggregate the best bits if you needed to. But it just felt a little weak. Could have been better. As far as story goes, I could have done with a little more denouement. We do that whole, they're together, we're at the end, hooray! And then it's just done. We do get a few more frames, I guess. We get a few more illustrations, a little bit more wind down, but to me, it's not quite enough. I would have liked to see a little bit more wrap up of the story after the fact. That's me personally. I do like a story that really wraps things. And there might even have been one or two story threads that didn't really get a satisfying wrap up towards the end. Okay, we have to talk about a couple of characters, and this is going to contain some serious spoilers, so it's okay to be done now if you need to be. Valentina's mother abandoned her and her father as a child, but her father was so messed up by it, instead of telling Valentina the truth, he told Valentina that she died. This was obviously a terrible decision because it totally screws up Valentina when she finds out. This mom that abandoned her apparently tried to come back, and Dad sent her packing, said, no, you don't get to hurt us that way anymore. Now remember, this is all taking place in San Francisco, California. Regardless of her behavior previous, if Valentina's mother had gone to the courts, which she absolutely had a right to do, it was her kid, and said, I want access to my child, regardless of whether or not she wanted any association with the father, the courts absolutely would have granted it to her, which means the fact that Valentina does not see her mom, does not even know her mother is alive until she is 15 years old, means that her mom did really and truly abandon her. Her mother never tried to get any sort of custody, never tried to go to the courts at all, and allowed Valentina to believe she was dead. She allowed this to happen. Part of the story is that Valentina ends up doing the lion dance at a separate extra reception that her biological mother's new husband is throwing for his business partners. She doesn't know that's who she's showing up for until she sees a picture that looks exactly like herself in a church she now recognizes because she's been there with her grandmother. But that's not her. That's someone else's communion, but it looks like her, and she realizes, I am at my mother's second wedding. When she accidentally runs into her mother in the bathroom and her mother realizes, oh my gosh, it's Valentina, and they're trying to have kind of a moment, a reconnection, new husband shows up, tells Valentina, you're not her daughter, today you are nothing, physically takes hold of Valentina and tries to drag her out of the wedding. Her Leuyen boys, and we love them for this, they show up, they make sure that new husband unhands Valentina, and they knock him to the ground. His response is then to sue the lion dancing studio. Once again, Mom allows this to happen. We never hear anything about her trying to intervene. She stands there watching this whole thing, being daft and stupid and not saying a word. And then she allows the lawsuit to continue, which closes down the Leuyen studio. She once again allows something that Valentina loves to be taken from her because she is weak and an idiot. Now, one of the themes of the book is forgiveness. But this last set here, where Valentina is asking if she can call this woman Mom, makes me furious. This woman has proven again and again she is weak, she is pathetic, and she will run at the first sign of any struggle. Is it important to forgive those who have wronged us? Yes. We cannot go walking through this world with bitterness and anger locked up inside us. It will seep out into everything else around us. But forgiving someone does not mean we invite them back into our lives when they have proven again and again that they will make poor decisions, that they will not be honest, that they will be weak, that they will run from difficult things. That is not someone you want to have in your life. Teenagers are not responsible for fixing the grown-ups in their lives. Incompetent adults is one of the story serpent's pet peeves, and this adult does not deserve to be invited back into Valentina's life, especially when we know now that she will allow her new husband to be abusive and disgusting whenever it suits him. Is it because of the money? Is it because she's just that weak-willed? I don't know. I don't care. There's no way I would allow that to continue. And if I were Valentina's father, I absolutely would have stepped in and said, hey, look, this is not okay. So if the story serpent has a beef, it's with this character and the way her narrative plays out, especially at the end. Now, like I said, this book takes place in San Francisco. There is exactly one gay individual, and she has a wife, not a partner, a wife, which surprised me in the most pleasant way. And she participates in various religious ceremonies. It's really wonderful to see that kind of integration, and given the story's setting, is tame as it can be, while still being what they would consider inclusive. So it's no big beef with the serpent. Overall, I give Lunar New Year Love Story a best beach reads. It's fun, it's fast, and if you're looking for something seasonally appropriate, pick this one up this week. Spend February 10th of 2024 reading Lunar New Year Love Story. That's all I've got for today. Till we meet again, read on, write on, stay sharp.